Chapter 7, question or exercise 22, asks you to classify a few reactions as either exothermic or as endothermic. So an exothermic reaction is a reaction that gives off heat. An example would be any explosion would be an exothermic reaction. An endothermic reaction is one that absorbs heat. So if it absorbs heat from the surroundings, then the surroundings become colder. And an example of those would be cold packs that they use in, say, an ambulance. You crack this pack open, and the chemicals start reacting. They absorb the heat around it, and the pack becomes really cold. You can apply that to a wound to keep it from being too inflamed. So that's what it means to be for a reaction to be exothermic or endothermic. Now, the way that you'd tell these is an exothermic reaction will have heat, and remember, the heat is a type of energy, and the unit for energy is kilojoules, on the right side of the reaction arrow. So if you have kilojoules on the right side of the reaction arrow, it means that the reaction is producing heat. For an endothermic reaction, you would have kilojoules on the left side of the arrow, of the reaction arrow. So, and the reason it would be on the left is because the reaction needs the heat. It needs it to absorb in order to have the reaction go. So, in this first one, in A, we're looking for kilojoules, and we see it here. Notice it's to the right of the arrow. To the right of the arrow, and so that means that this reaction is exothermic. It's giving off heat. It's producing 802 kilojoules of heat in this ratio. Okay, how about the second one? In this one, we're looking for kilojoules. We see it here. It is on the left side of the arrow. So if it's on the left side of the arrow, that means that the reaction absorbs that amount of heat, and it is endothermic. So the surroundings in this reaction would become colder. For C, we're looking for kilojoules, and we see it right here. It is on the right side of the reaction arrow. And if it's on the right side of the reaction arrow, then we know it's exothermic. The reaction is producing that heat or giving off that heat. And so this reaction, this third one, is an exothermic reaction. It's one that produces heat. This is aluminum reacting with rust, basically. Those two things react and produce heat. So the surroundings get really, really hot. And so that's how you tell the difference between an exothermic and an endothermic reaction.